You know, the more I think about it, the more I realize Gen 5 is one of my favorite generations. Gen 2 is still my number one, but Black and White, and especially Black 2 and White 2, were fantastic games. The creature designs get a lot of hate, and we'll talk about why a bit later on and more next time, but overall, Gen 5 designs were really solid. So let's talk about some of the best ones. Pseudo Legendaries have had their highs and lows over the years, but Dino, Xylus, and Hydreigon are definitely up there. These are highly aggressive dark types, and I love that they actually bear signs of this aggression on their bodies. They all have jagged tails that look like they got bitten off, Hydreigon's even looks like it's getting some gangrene, and Dino is covered in scabs and bruises. And Hydreigon looks absolutely terrifying. Something about those eyes and the three heads really strikes fear into your heart, which is exactly what I expect from a pseudo-legendary. I mean, I know not all of them are made to look like scary creatures, but I think those are the stronger designs for the pseudo-legendary role. And damn, even Tyranitar doesn't look half as scary as this guy. They're also based on Yamata no Orochi and the Hydra, both of which are evil multi-headed dragons. And the Hydra, you cut off one head, two more take its place, so the longer you fight it, the more heads it has, which is reflected in how Dinos, Xylus, and Hydreigon have progressively more heads. And can I just say, I love their names and how that counts off the number of heads, especially Dino and Hydreigon with Eins and Drei incorporated almost invisibly into the names. Fossil Pokemon have honestly never been that exciting to me. I like Omastar and especially Kabutops a lot, but I think that's mostly the nostalgia glasses talking. But the Gen 5 fossils are an exception, especially Archon and Archeops. I like Tortuga and Caracosta too, but they're much more normal turtles. They don't have a lot that makes them stand out from all of the other turtles. But Archon and Archeops are based on the Archaeopteryx and other early birds. They don't match Archaeopteryx anatomy perfectly, like the tail is pretty different, but they show the transition between a raptor and bird very clearly. Archon in particular is obviously a bird while having clear elements of a dinosaur in the face and tail. Both Archon and Archeops also have claws on their wings, showing how the wings developed from arms. And Archeops even has feathers on its legs, like some feathered dinosaurs. I really hope this isn't just the 9-year-old paleontology nerd in me talking. You'll remember that in the Worst of Gen 3 video, I mentioned that the Titans were very poor executions on the concept of golems from Jewish legend. Golett and Golurk, on the other hand, are fantastic. Golett looks very much like a ball of clay with the arms and legs being sort of pushed out from the ball. It's all very rough and uneven, and it's all held together by this sort of brace. Golurk is like the next step up, a more refined golem pulling some elements from automatons. It's still a golem. The patched crack on the chest is a clear reference to the Golem of Prague, but it's also got this boxy look that at least I associate with old school androids. It can also fly and really reminds me of the Iron Giant. And I think that in a way, automatons and robots are the conceptual successors to animated clay golems. One of the biggest complaints we see about this generation is that there were too many inanimate object Pokemon. And it's true that Gen 5 introduced a bunch of them, but there's one family that's beyond reproach. Litwick, Lampent, and Chandelure are probably the all-time best inanimate Pokemon ever. They have a fantastic progression, with each stage both looking unique and conforming perfectly to the evolution patterns established by previous generations. They represent increasingly complex, or advanced if you prefer, lighting fixtures, beginning with a simple candle, then a standard lamp, and finally a glamorous chandelier. Their blue fire is also a reference to Will-o'-the-Wisp, a spectral light that lures nighttime travelers away from their paths, very ghostly. But what really makes them stellar designs is how well they play within the Pokemon mold. These guys are clearly objects, you can tell what they're supposed to be right off the bat, but they've been anthropomorphized just the right amount to give them charming personalities. Litwick with its dripping wax covering an eye is absolutely adorable. Lampent is maybe the least exciting design, but it can still be very endearing with the arms and the lampshade hat. And Chandelure makes a great balance between looking fancy and eerie or scary. And we've seen all the ways that it can move in Pokken Tournament. It's very expressive. But I think there's two absolutely standout designs in this generation. And it's kind of surprising because they're in a pretty tired category. The Levany family and the Scolipede family are easily the best cocooning bug types. In both of these families, each stage brings something unique while still being clearly related to the other two. Swaddle is a caterpillar that is swaddled in leaves by its mother. Swadloon has basically retreated into its leaf blanket and probably represents someone with social anxiety, which explains both its facial expression and why it takes friendship for it to evolve into Levany. Now, Levany doesn't really look like a moth, which is what you'd expect given what Swaddle is based on. It might still be a caterpillar, or maybe a mantis, neither of which makes very much sense, but I'm willing to forgive that because of just how charming and motherly Levany looks. Venipede, Whirlipede, and Scolipede are centipedes, with some elements of millipedes thrown in for the first two. And I think they somehow bring together all of the elements that we as humans in general find both repulsive and attractive about these creatures. Whirlipede's curled up design in particular is a reference to a number of millipede species that can roll up in defense, so it's not quite a cocoon, and it does still keep a bunch of design elements from Venipede. Scolipede goes full centipede with how it's an aggressive predator, but it also brings in the sort of centaur look that I don't think I've ever seen applied to an arthropod, and I absolutely adore it. After so many flying bugs, whether they were actually flying types or poison types, it's great to see these two families break the mold in such a brilliant manner. Thank you for watching today's episode of my creature design review. If you enjoyed it, hit like, subscribe if you're new, and share this video. It really helps me out. In the next video of this series, we'll talk about the worst designs of Gen 5. This gen gets a lot of hate, some of it deserved, some not, so we'll have quite a bit to cover. I'm Umbrian Libris, and I'll see you in the next chapter.